Welcome to our Stories Festival today. It's our virtual day, and the full 3 days, the 2 days in person as well as today, are all focused on providing insight and opportunities in film and TV, particularly from people from underrepresented backgrounds. Our first session is all about demystifying writers' rooms and really uncovering, how writers' rooms work, breaking down what people can expect before you guys go into your first writers' rooms. Our guest is BAFTA winning, NAACP nominated, RTS nominated, International Emmy nominated, showrunner, actor, writer, and director, Adjani Salmon. What's going on?
Yo, what going?
We're here. How have you been?
Busy.
Good.
We're just writing, man. The whole gang's just trying to get season 2 done. So, yeah, we're going through it. But it's good. It's good times.
I love that. I love that. And yeah, well, you're in writers mode, and we are talking about writers' rooms. So I will go straight in. Ajani, what exactly is a writers' room, and how would you describe like its core function for people who have never been in one before?
Well, I speak specifically to the UK, but
Yeah.
UK writers' rooms are generally where people come, like a group of writers come together to break story. So that's either for, say, a pilot or usually for like a season. So where we all sit down and kind of figure out what are all of the episodes looking like, what are all of the storylines, before writers go away and like write the episodes of those scripts.
Love that. So like you use the phrase breaking story, which I've heard quite a bit, right? Is there something specific to breaking story, or is it what you just said in terms of just outlining, all right, what are we actually gonna write about?
Yeah, well, each writer's room has their own objective, so you kind of go
Okay.
in knowing what the objective of the room is.
Mm-hmm.
Most times, I guess I said from my experience, it's breaking story, meaning literally figuring out if it's a new show, figuring out who are all the characters. If it's a returning show, figuring out, well, what are the storylines that we're going to take these characters on. So that's literally what breaking story means. Just figuring it out. What are the twists and turns, the major plot points, the surprises, all of that kind of stuff. How does it end? Just the mechanics of storytelling.
I love that. I love that. And given that you've been in like a few different writers' rooms, would you say that generally they're structured the same way across different projects, or do they vary depending on like the showrunner or the team?
Yeah, it depends. As I say, it's all about the outcome. Like, what is the outcome of the room? So
Mm,
I've been in rooms where we're trying to figure out the pilot, or I've been in rooms where we're figuring out possible storylines because that was for more of like a kind of
okay.
soap kind of show. So it's more like, who are the characters? What storylines can we run for them?
Yes.
And as well as, I guess, for Dreaming Whilst Black, we're very much like season outline. But sometimes we've had rooms, like we've had comedy rooms, which is literally with all the scripts, and it's like, well, how do we make this funnier? They're
Oh.
different again, depending on the objective, but every room is dependent on the objective of the room.
Mm. So you know the comedy rooms
Mhm.
that you just mentioned, right? What was that like? Because I guess then it sounds like you've had writers' rooms to break the story. You've got scripts, and then it's like, okay, let's have a comedy room to. Was that specifically just about jokes then?
Yeah, literally just about jokes. So, sometimes like there's a period in season 1 where we had all the scripts, and I do think the scripts were solid in terms of storylines, what the characters are doing, where do we lead the audience emotionally. But it was like, okay, cool, maybe we can just punch up the script more. So that's just literally making the dialogue funnier, making reactions, just tweaks like to finesse jokes to really make sure that they're landing as much as possible. So we brought in a couple comedians, comedy writers, and we sent them all the scripts, and everybody kind of came into the room
Yeah.
with like pitches and like ideas of just how we could fix everything.
And what was that like for you as a showrunner? Like that specific comedy room.
Oh, I like it. I love the collaborative process. I feel like writing can be very isolated. It's just
Mm-hmm.
you and a laptop. So
Mm.
writing in or creating in a team where you have like a group of people to bounce off of, or even just bounce off your own ideas. You might think something might be funny, and you kind
Yeah.
of pitch it to the room, and if nobody not really laugh or nobody not really get it, you're like, well, maybe that's kind of shit. So,
Yeah.
it's just a safe space to just throw things out there and get real time feedback instead of writing it on your own, sending it to the script editors, them taking the time to read it and come back to you and be like, whereas essentially you get that feedback loop immediately.
Yes, I got you. I got you.
hmm
And you mentioned about like the isolation and writing being lonely, right? Is that why you like writing with Ali?
Um, well, me and Ali started writing from the web series, so
Mm.
it's not even. And it wasn't even like I initially started writing with Ali as a form of help, like because it was straight out of film school.
Yeah.
And I did a directing course. He did the writing course, and I was struggling to
Mm.
like connect, that connectivity between episodes. So we kind of just
Yeah.
linked. Max was suggested, just link up with Ali, and we started to writing together there.
Yeah.
And we've just kind of continued doing it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And because even now, to be honest, even though we write together, we actually
Yeah.
do write apart and then come together and almost like edit each other's work. So again, it still
Okay.
works very much in a way of before the script editor reads our work, we edit each other's work and put it together so that it feels like one voice before sending
Yeah.
it off.
Okay. No, I like that. I like that. Um, cool. So as a showrunner, right, and understanding that there's loads of it sounds like there's not a set way that a writer's room has to work. I guess it sounds like it's more defined on what you want to achieve, right? As a showrunner yourself, how do you personally like to lead your writers' rooms?
Well, I guess it depends on the show. So, like,
Hmm.
Dreaming As Black as an example that people have seen.
Yeah.
Both seasons, actually. The start of the room very much is talking about grand ideas. Like, what do we want to discuss? What are the themes that we're interested in talking about? Um, what are the overarching kind of topics? So, for example, like, whereas I went into the room with certain ideas, like I
Mm.
went into season one knowing I'm like, oh, I'm curious in like if black people can exploit their own. That was what I went in with. But it was being in the room that the women in the room were kind of like, well, you have a pregnant woman in the pilot. What are you doing with that? And to be honest, we didn't have any idea. And she was like, well, we need to talk about maternal, black maternity healthcare, right? So it's like those ideas, or Ali found this new guidance that the government had passed about impartiality in schools, right?
Mm.
And we were like, oh, that's interesting. And so then that's how that whole episode 5 thing with the cartoon came about. It's like, oh, let's talk about impartiality in politics and how that affects education.
Yeah.
So we start off very much with like big ideas, and then it's like, right, these are the ideas. How can we weave a story into, like, how can we tell a story that explores these ideas? And then
Yes.
after that, after we have the story, we then kind of come in and be like, okay, cool, how do we make this funny?
Yeah.
So our process is quite different, whereas I'd say for other stuff I've worked on has very been much been about, okay, cool, let's create funny characters and then put these characters in scenarios that will make funny outcomes.
Wow.
um so again, it depends on the genre or the style, like what we're talking about,
Yeah, yeah,
and we
yeah.
figure it out from there.
That's you know what you mentioned, and I know each room in each project is going to be different, right? But
Hmm.
I find what you said about building the character first and then figuring out where they're going to be put. I find that quite interesting because it sounds like what I guess my question is it like does that work? Like is it possible to like flesh out something so like let's say you've got two lead characters, right? You flesh that out so well that that a story can naturally flow from that.
Yeah, well, that's how traditional sitcoms are made. That's why you have the Mr. Bean character, or you have like Stath from Stathless Flats, or you have like Michaela Cole's character in Chewing Gum. Like traditionally, um, how sitcoms are built is you create a funny character, and then it's like when you have a funny character, no matter what scenario you put that character in, you know they're gonna do the funny thing, right? So it's just about finding interesting stories to put them in. So that's actually more the classic way of creating like a traditional sitcom, or
Okay.
even like
Would
hood
you?
documentaries. Perfect example.
Yes.
Like
Yep.
you create roll safe, and no matter where you put roll safe, a funny outcome going to happen, right? But it's because they have the character.
Yes. Do you know what? I've never thought about that or heard that. So that's a really good idea, actually. Thank you for sharing. So writers' rooms, they are clearly very important. Just in terms of like some practical things, like
Mhm.
how long do they typically last for?
I mean, again, that depends on your budget and who's in your room, but
Hey.
right, I've been in rooms that are 1 week. I've been in 2 week rooms. I've been in couple-day rooms. That, to be
Mm,
honest, is a budget question more than anything
okay,
else.
okay,
Yeah.
got you. And for Dreaming Whilst Black, right, when you're inviting someone into the writers' room, how
Hmm.
much how much preparation do they need to do before coming in? Like, do you send out notes, drafts, outlines,
We
or?
said it depends. So like, again, if we're talking at the start of a season, obviously there was
Hmm.
nothing that existed except the web series. So we
Yeah,
kind of sent them the web series and be like, look, this is what the show is. This notes of what we're trying to explore, and then say, come in with fresh ideas or fresh pitches. Um, so that's it. Or obviously, if we're doing a comedy punch up room, they get sent the scripts and be like,
yeah.
these are all the scripts. These are areas where we think can be funnier, or just tell us what you think. Tell us where you think can be
Mhm.
funnier. So it depends again on the objective, but we try to give as much preparation as possible. Um, yeah, or even if it's like season two coming in, yo, these are the kind of books that we've been reading or that we think are relevant to what we're doing. Again, they don't have to
Mm,
read it or not, just to kind of get an idea of what we're doing.
yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay, cool. Um, Now, it seems that like writers' rooms are like essential for the majority of projects, right? And I guess they tend to yield good results. Have there ever been any instances where like the collaborations in like writers' rooms just haven't actually worked, whether that's on your own projects or projects that you've been on?
Yeah, of course, for a myriad of reasons. So, for example, like season one, we kind of had this real elaborate writers' room, which we had some great ideas come out of it. But then you get the budget, and you're like, oh, you can't do half of the shit what you guys come up with. So then it's like, well, if you don't have this, then you can't have that. So then we'll kind of have to just rewrite the whole thing because no, like you can't just pull out essential elements and it
Yeah,
still work. So you end up just changing the whole thing. Like season one, we changed loads of most of it, but
really.
purely because we wrote in a vacuum of no money, thinking, oh yeah, BBC, we can make whatever we want. And then you kind of get the budget and you're like, well, you can't do none of this. So like scale it all back, which we ended
Wow.
up changing storylines completely to fit in a more like to basically make a script that we can shoot.
Yeah, I got you.
So a lot of times that becomes the case.
Fair dues, fair dues. Well, still came out good. So,
We give
you know,
thanks.
that balance between the creativity and the money was clearly found.
So,
What advice? What advice would you give to writers who are stepping into a writer's room for the first time, especially writers from like underrepresented backgrounds as well?
I mean, look, obviously you have to be yourself. The fact that you got the room, got into the room, meaning clearly there's some value that they had. They don't add people for no reason.
Mm,
But it's obviously just don't take up too much space. Like share your ideas, share your critique, but obviously just be respectful of everybody and, be mindful that you're trying to execute someone else's vision. Like, so it's about serving the person's vision, not what you think their show should be. You know what I mean? It's their show. So as long as, and that don't mean you can't challenge things. Like I've been in rooms with like Stephen Knight, you know what I'm saying? And
mm,
for his show. And I've been like, I was thinking da 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 da. Da." And he's kind of like, yeah, no. All
mm.
right, cool. It's not my
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah,
you get me?
yeah,
I'm here to serve his vision and his show. So, whereas I don't necessarily think that was whatever, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, he knows
yeah,
what he wants to say with his project. And he builds a team around it to help him say what he wants to say.
yeah.
So, part of it is that.
That is amazing. Yeah, it's not like, oh, this is the England call up. Make sure you score a hat trick. It's like do the best for the team. The team. It's not
Yeah.
about you. Yeah, amazing, amazing. So being a showrunner, right,
hmm
and putting together writers' rooms, how do you how do you ensure that everyone's voice is heard?
Well, it depends on who's leading the room. Season one, I didn't lead the room. Season two, I kind of did. And it's just about
Why
managing.
did it? Why didn't you lead the room? By the way.
I didn't want to. I didn't want to.
Okay.
I prefer to lead from the back. Like I feel like it's almost like um I don't know. It's almost like playing chess and you're sitting down in the seat playing, or if you're standing over watching two people play, you kind of see everything. So
Yeah.
I rather sit back and kind of just watch everything and come from the back and be like, all right, cool, this, that, that, that. Versus the one
Mm,
standing up on the board, putting up. Because I guess when you're leading the room, you're now in charge of time management. You're now
ah.
in charge of what you've said. You're now in charge of making sure that everybody's heard. You're managing stuff. When
Ah.
it's like actually I would rather just squarely think about the story and leave the time management. Like if we sit down and argue for half an hour about one thing, rather somebody else tell me, yo, you and I argue about this too much, move
Yeah.
on. Than me
Yeah.
be the one to be like, stop creative flow. We need to move on because of XYZ. You see what I'm saying? So that's why
Yeah.
I prefer to not have that managerial or administrative responsibility.
Wow. So the person. So is it typically the case that a showrunner would, like you say, be at the board? The reason why I'm asking is because it it sounds like whoever's doing that role is a bit admin-y as opposed to creative,
I mean,
like
it's
being
both.
able
It's
to.
both. It depends on how you set it up because
Okay.
how season one how we set it up is our story editor Stephanie Yamson who did that.
Okay. Got
So
you.
again, so she did that bit. She led the room so that she could be in charge of all of that and like be asking the questions and all of that kind of stuff while we just kind of creatively flow. So it
Yeah.
is when you are leading the room, it is that kind of double responsibility where I can say I've been in rooms like I've been in Nathan's room
Mm.
and Nathan wasn't at the board
Yeah. Okay. I
because
got you.
again,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
can just sit back and just spit ideas
Yeah.
at them and see what happens. You know what I mean? But
100%.
everybody did different because I've been in spaces where the showrunner is the lead of the room as well. And in season two,
Mm,
I was kind of it. In season two, I was kind of like told like, "Yo, it's time for you step in and do that." You know what I mean? So
really interesting.
it depends. Yeah.
Is that because by doing that, you're kind of catching the things that you do want to be at the board. It's like you're kind of filtering out the yes and
Not
no
not
of
really, because nothing now gonna go up on a board that we don't agree with. You know what I'm saying? So
okay,
it's not me sitting down at the back or me being at the board. If me not like what up on the board, it not gonna stay up on the board anyway. So like,
okay.
you know, it no matter where I am, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, all right. No, that's interesting. So my last question is, in your view, how important is like chemistry between writers in the room, and how does that affect like the final product of the show?
I mean, I think like directing, procurement is one of the biggest things in the room, in just the job. Who you
Hmm.
hire, do you get on with the person? You don't have to agree. Like
Mm.
yeah, like we disagree 90% of the time in the room, but that's the point.
Yeah.
It's like you get people
Yes.
from different backgrounds, different perspectives to come together to create this thing. So like as long as everybody respects everybody's craft, respects everybody's energy and what everybody brings to the table, there's not a problem of whether we agree or not. It's like
Mm.
that's why I brought people in the room to not agree with me.
Yeah.
To tell me, yo, this don't make no sense. Like we
Mm.
gotta do this. So as long as people are respectful of other people's opinions, like we always say, no idea is a bad idea. And that's kind of the motto, like throw everything out there. Like it might be shit, it might not be, but your shit idea might spot the good idea. So
Yes.
it's important to have those rooms, like, and even you never know. Like some people, like we've had a room where one person was particularly quiet in the room, and it's like but when they did come out with something, it's a zinger, and it's like,
Yeah.
well, you have to allow them to feel comfortable to say that. Um, so
Mm.
so yeah, it's not about. I think everybody gets along as long as everybody respects everybody's um, practice and work ethic and everything. Is
Yeah.
more about. So that's not the issue. It's more about
Mm.
allowing dissenting voices, allowing the argument. Because in the
Mm.
argument, like for example, season one, we had a massive argument about circumcision,
Mm-hmm.
like about because we were with like should the child get circumcised or not. So
Yeah.
in that moment we found out the room was half like West African, half Caribbean, and it
Wow.
became a thing. It become personal. People start throw lower blows, and it's like, yo, like what we really are saying, you know what I mean? But that just made me realize even more. No, we have to put this in the show,
Yeah. Yeah.
because if we there sit down in that room and people like get vexed about it, then clearly it's something that people care about. So clearly it's something we should talk about in the show.
Mm. Mm.
And yeah, so that's how. So that's why I'm always up for like disagreements, because that's where the magic kind of, in that disagreement is where the good stuff comes out.
I love that you're always very what is it, non-personal about your creativity, which I love. You take your craft very seriously, but there's also this thing of like, look, I just want the best thing. I don't care where it comes from. Yeah, I'll have a hand in it or whatever, but I'm not precious about it, which I think is amazing. What I wanted to know, right, off of the back of what you're saying, how do you manage those creative differences in the room?
I think it's all about, like, if there's a fundamental flaw, then we have to hear it out, right? Like if there's like, look, this is a cultural issue, or look,
Yeah.
this is a gender based issue, or this is like a black, white, whatever issue, then you have to hear it out. Then
Mm,
it's like, all right, cool. What can we do that appeases that? What can we do that accommodates for that while
mm,
doing what we want? You know what I mean? But if they're
yeah.
fundamental issues, then they're fundamental issues that have to be
Mm,
dealt with. But If it's just the execution of something,
Hmm.
then we can debate and find a way. Or like, if me not think a joke funny and everybody think it funny, fair enough. Maybe I know me, I just me alone I think it funny. That don't mean the
Yeah,
joke
yeah,
don't
yeah,
land. So you kind of
yeah,
let it
yeah.
go. So it's more
Hmm.
about just fundamental. If they're fundamental issues of like we had a example in season one where they were adamant that Vanessa and Amy had a scene together. And Ali and I, we did the story wise, like it don't work. Like
Yeah,
there's no, we have designed this story so far, and there've been no reason for them to interact. So like it just not gonna work.
yeah.
And but again, they were adamant that look, like they're two. This is essentially the top three people in the show is Kwabena and the two women in his life. The fact that these two
Mm,
women never speak to each other just feels awkward, especially if we're saying that they're cool with each other, right?
mm,
And that was for them. They're like, this is just a feminist issue, and it's like, all right, now we have a feminist issue clashing with story issue because story, make a sense why them talk, but
yeah,
them need for talk due to the politics of the show.
yeah.
All right, cool. We'll find somewhere that they can speak, which we
Mm,
did, and we ended up writing the scene. But ironically, both Amy and Babs kind of came to us and was like, "This scene don't make no sense," and I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, no, because it don't make no story sense." But like, we gotta film this scene, so feel free to chip in. And literally, Babs and Danny sat down with us at the hotel, Ali and I, and we literally all rewrote that scene that night into something that them as the performers feels has some merit or has some value to be in the scene. You know what I'm
mm,
saying? But again, it's a collaborative process of like, okay, we have to do these two things. We need to figure it out.
mm. So, would you say, in that sense, looking back, right, that you would have preferred to have not done that if it didn't
Uh,
make sense to the story?
Our impulse said it didn't make sense to the story, but actually, it's one of those scenes that is quite loved within the show.
Got
So
you.
I can sit here and say story wise, it never made no sense, but actually, the audience loved it. So they too were right. And the scene that we ended up
Mm,
creating was a scene that we needed to pass time and to fill in like story. So we put it in a place that structurally made sense. We need to pass time in the ep, put it there, use them to pass the time and drip feed that information, right? Um, so
wow.
going back, I wouldn't take out that scene at all because it was a great scene.
So you use the issue. The issue fell in line with the story overall in the end.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we just figured it out. Like story is construction.
Yeah, I love that. Man, all right, all right, all right. Well, that was a very nice masterclass on what actually happens in writers' rooms. There are no rules, but there are some rules, and yeah, thank you for breaking that down for us. We look forward to seeing season two. Any last things that you want to say to everyone?
um, no, just have
especially
fun, man.
especially young writers, actually, especially young writers.
Yeah, I'd say just have fun with it. You know what I mean? Like, have fun creating the stuff. If it feels fun while doing it, it's probably going to be fun while making it, and it's probably going to turn out. It's probably going to be fun when it's done. Like the scenes that we laughed about the most are the scenes that people laugh at the most. So yeah, just have fun and be open to ideas and just keep exploring, keep playing. Like the room is where you play and try things out and then throw it away and bring it back, and you know what I
Mm,
mean? Like it's
mm,
a process. So like trust the process.
love that. Love that. Thank you. Welcome to another session at Our Stories Festival. I am really excited about this session in particular because we've all grown up understanding or seeing, like knowing that there's a film industry in Africa, but not really understanding the inner workings of it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to really getting to grips with some of the things that are going on behind the scenes. Today we're joined by one of its rising stars, one of the industry's rising stars, Genoveva Umeh. She has been in Blood Sisters for Netflix, as well, like loads of projects, but I'm just talking about some of her notable ones that people really know her for. So, you know, she really made an impact in Blood Sisters for Netflix, Breath of Life for Amazon, and that's only the beginning. And I believe you won an award for
I did.
Breath of Life as
Yeah,
well, innit?
I did. Yeah.
Come on!
The African Magic
Come
Viewers
on!
Choice Awards, Best Supporting Actress. Yeah, it was amazing.
Look at that. Look at that. And yeah, we also did an episode of Your Scene, a series that we do over here at Your Cinema with her.
Yeah.
Impactful. That was an experience working with you. Like
Yeah.
really, me
Likewise.
and Quason were like, whoa,
Likewise.
who is this?
I enjoyed
So
you guys. You guys gave me the space to, to play, and it was really good. Yeah.
that's what we do, man. That's what
Yeah,
we do.
that is
That's what we
really
do.
what we do. I appreciate you guys. Oh.
No, I love that. I love that. So I guess right to dive in, you when I'm like as I mentioned, right, when we worked with you, what was really super apparent, right, was you're an actor of the craft.
Mm.
And to be fair, the majority of actors that we work with, they are, but there was a very significant level that smacked us in the face when you were performing, in terms of like how serious you were, how you embodied the character, and just really being in it. And because it was such a taxing scene, and yeah, just how you were crying. I know there's this thing of like, oh, being able to cry on cue, but
Right.
what I realized was that it's not that you were crying on cue, is that you were actually feeling what the character was feeling, which is why those things were coming out each time.
Mm.
And even just certain breaks, and there were things that you did on set,
Yeah.
um, that were really like, oh no, you're an actor's actor,
Oh,
basically.
thank
Um, and well, thank you. It was amazing to work with you. So what I really want to understand is like, yeah, where did you hone your craft, and why is it so important to you?
you. I started acting. Well, I mean, I genuinely like since I was like maybe preteen. I lived in Enugu, so Enugu, Nigeria. It's a state in Nigeria,
Hmm.
and it was like quite a small state, and like it was just a very nice environment to like grow up and just be yourself, I guess. And I would be involved in like extracurricular activities, contemporary dance. And my parents, if we were ever to go to a party, they would encourage me to dance to win, to win the first prize place. Like they were just about that life. Like you have to dance and get first place, if you're gonna dance. So yeah, they were pretty much like that. And when we moved, I moved to London when I was 11.
Hmm.
I quickly fell in love with drama. In high
Hmm.
school, it became like my favorite class. The best 2 hours of the week. We were using our imagination. Like, at the time, I would say that, oh yeah, like my idea of acting would be to draw from like past experiences. Think about something harsh, like, losing a parent or something, that something so deep, regardless. But at the time, that was kind of like, I just enjoyed that class. And then I just sought for opportunities outside of high school. And I saw that
Hmm.
you could go to this part-time drama school during the weekends, and it was
Hmm.
Identity School of Acting offering that. I applied. At the time, my mom was like, "I'm not paying for that," and I was like, "Yeah, mom, that's fine, that's fine." You don't have to. I remember getting like a part-time job at like 16 just to fund it, because by some miracle they they let me in. I remember Mr. Femi Ogun's being a part of that journey, and like being in the room, and it being like such a creative environment to learn this craft, to work with other actors and to watch the people above, because I was an acting professional, and then there was professional ahead of us, and then there was like IAGs, the guys that were signed.
Yeah.
So like I was an acting professional, getting to watch the professionals, and like hoping that one day I would get signed too. It was like all this big dream that you could potentially touch your dreams, if you stick to it. I loved my tutor. Her name was Anna Jordan. She would give us, I guess, pieces to work on in class for our showcase, but also pieces to work on for auditions outside of school. So I got to audition with Damson Idris one time. Like, look, it was an experience, and that was my first ever audition. And I saw Damson Idris. He was explosive in that audition. When you're just watching another actor thinking, yo, is this what they do? Like, they go in just book the job, like, yo. And we were playing this game, right, where you have to like tap tap the actor out, and then the actor like comes in with a new storyline, and then you're supposed to follow that actor, and like you guys keep going, and then someone can tap you out. It was just such a wonderful experience, a wonderful experience for inspiration, for just to learn how to wear your heart on your sleeve and embody emotions, really. Yeah, so that was kind of the best experience I could have had, and all the foundation I could have had for what I'm doing now.
I love that. Embodying your emotions. That is what you did on set. Yes. Like to the 10th degree. That's that. Yeah, no, it was amazing. It was amazing. It was
Thank
amazing.
you.
That I love that. I love that foundation, because identity, like it's an iconic school. So many people have come from there. As we know, Femi and the team are doing a great job. But you made your name in Nigeria, isn't it?
I
So
did.
you've got some foundational training here, and then you've pursued things abroad, and it's been going really well, and long may it
Ah,
continue.
very
But I've got this question, right? Like, there's often like a stigma around films in Nigeria or Nollywood when it comes to like writing and acting. Why do you think that perception exists?
I mean, I'd say because our industry is quite small. Nollywood is, as is such a small industry. I know that it has its clout, and people from all over Africa and across the world would just watch the content either to laugh or ease their pain. But it's a very small industry in terms of like expertise, in terms of like the creators that are working to produce the world class standard. Um,
Yeah.
why people recognize Nollywood is because the people that started Nollywood just wanted to create films. They just wanted to tell stories. They didn't necessarily have the equipment. They did, but they had the brilliant actors. They had like the pros that would improvise and give us all these classics, like that we call old Hollywood, not old, that we call old Nollywood now. So it's
Mm,
just from that we then I have gotten the opportunity to be in an industry that have set that foundation, right? So
yeah.
when people watch the majority of content, they will just of course not think, that we're serious, based off of what has been. But
hmm
from my experience and the films that I've gotten to be a part of, there is a level of there's a desire to just want to tell African stories, to own our stories, and to share that to the world. You know, yeah. So that has come with filmmakers in this part of the world really being inspired and putting in the work, and it's not easy to do a film in Nigeria. Nigeria is like there's a lot of things that goes against the idea of like of perfection, or the idea of like producing a thing to the level that you want it to. The economy is an issue. Security is an issue. We don't have stable light. So that's something that,
Mm.
a production has to consider. The running of fuel, that's a lot of money. Inflation in Nigeria has tripled in the past maybe 3 years.
Whoa.
What I was buying, what I was using to buy bread like last year is not the money I'm using to buy bread this year. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Mm.
there's a lot to consider, and the country and its producers, the people that work here, just require a lot of funding, a lot of trust, and I think that if given half the chance, oh my goodness, we would we would do amazing things. Yeah.
I love that. That is yeah, that's a great overview in terms of the reality of the challenges, but then also the desire to actually level in terms of, okay, this is what we watch,
Mm,
like, we've
yeah.
all grown up watching like Steven Spielberg films and all
Mm,
of that stuff, and it's like, okay, this is what we're trying to do, which is why I guess a lot of the performances and the films are actually, the quality
yeah.
is leveling, do you know what I mean,
Yeah.
because people are
Yeah.
striving for
Right. Yeah, we have
no, that's
Netflix who
good.
have come into the fold and giving us
Mm,
like solid content. We have Prime as well, like, and Showmax, which I don't think is available in the diaspora. Used to be, but
hmm
I just think that there are different. So for the actor that you want to be, there's
yeah,
different facets of the industry. Unlike the UK, where it's just one industry, and this is the standard, and like, if you're not creating this standard, are you really making a film? No, no, no.
yeah.
Everybody believes in themselves around here. Okay, so we're all making films. All right. It just depends on, like, your level of talent, and like where you figure that your audience is, like, and there is an audience for everything here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Yeah, I love that, because that's how everyone should be.
That's how everyone should be. Facts.
No fear. No
Facts.
fear.
And Nigeria, have you met Nigerians? Oh my god. Nigerians are like the epitome of no fear. Like, they say
Wow.
wherever the world they are.
I
Yeah.
love that. Wow. Yeah, no, that is, sorry, no, I'm just thinking about something. But yeah, no, no. I love that. So, like, in terms of going over there, right?
Right.
Going over to Nigeria, what has been your experience specifically, like, as an actor?
Mm.
Like, on set, working with people, like, what are the ways in which, yeah, how are people working?
Mm. Wow, that's a quite a broad question.
Yeah.
My experience, I mean, people are, well, one, people are working according to their budgets,
Oh.
the budgets that they have.
Mm-hmm.
So when I first started out, I wasn't involved in like these Netflix projects that would pay you well, to sustain
Mm-hmm.
yourself, or like just give you like a really great on-set experience. Um, but let me tell you, at the time, coming up, I was involved in productions where you have to bring your own shoe, bring your own dress, like, make sure
Mm-hmm.
that you come correct. But having said that, though, like, people are passionate about the work. People,
Yes.
actors like myself, I've met kindred spirits, like minds, that are like, that just have a solid backing, a solid fan base, because they have they've had lineup of work, and
Yep.
work speaks for them.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
when you get the opportunity to work with those actors, they're always keen to hear your ideas. The
Mm-hmm.
director's always brilliant,
Mm-hmm.
always just kind of like has a keen eye for detail. Like, it's a collaboration, one of trust completely as well. So, just really enjoyed that space. And now that I'm privileged to working like certain productions that are working towards the international standard, working towards telling great stories, and giving us true African storytelling at its finest.
Yes. Yes.
I'm just really grateful that we're working at international standard as well. Like, where the
Mm.
actors are treated great. Like, we get picked up for work. We have meetings ahead of time. There's table reads. There's like I guess one-on-one meetings with a director. You know, the pre-production. A lot goes into pre-production before the set.
Yeah. Yeah.
The team is locked down. I have to shout out to Ebony Life. They are very principled in every way. Very principled in, you know, how much they desire for excellence. They build sets like people travel different states in Nigeria to film. I've had the experience of traveling different places. I've had the experience of traveling within Nigeria and outside of it. I shot in South Africa, so I've, you know, that the opportunities are endless, right? If you
Yes.
care about the work, if you know you're working on your craft, and if you trust yourself and believe that you've got something, because there's one like, oh, you know, being really talented and, you know, not really pushing yourself and not really, you know, giving yourself grace where you need it. Yeah, I think you have to believe in your own source, man. Believe in your own source.
Come on. Hasala, hasala.
Yeah.
I love it. Love it. Love it.
So yeah, like
I,
that's kind of how we work around here.
I love it. I love the spokesman. I love it. I love it. So you know, like, given how seriously you take craft, right? And
Right.
it's yeah, it's not a joke. I've yeah, definitely seen this first time. Like, what in Nigeria and then and just the diaspora and the projects that you've worked on, like, how, like, is that level of attention to the craft, like, how is it supported? Is it seen as like, you're doing too much, come on, we just need to get this thing done, like, yeah,
Mm.
what's that like?
Oh, it's supported. But I think you have to go where you're supported. That's what I've learned. Like, you know, you know, if you have a level, if you're dedicated to something, and you
Yeah.
think that your craft requires a level of attention,
Mm,
and you're in a space where, you know, that doesn't speak for that, then you have to want to walk away. You have to be willing to walk
mm,
away. That obviously comes with like being hungry, and as a
yeah.
creative, that's not great, but it is fulfilling in the long run. It is worth it in the long run. Um, I've had
Mm,
the opportunity and the privilege to be in spaces where people want you to do your job. Like, you know, that's just their goal. Like, they set up the when you come on set, you're already in hair and makeup, you're in your costume. Okay, travel the actors. Like, we have ADs that do a fine job at
mm,
making the day, you know. And when I say making the day is hard in Nigeria, because Nigeria has a lot of, you can have a lot of obstacles. You can be trying to
yeah.
travel somewhere and police can stop you. You know, you can run out of fuel, like, or and you can maybe we're working with a workforce that you have to, although you've delegated tasks to them, you have to use your initiative to help them as well. So it's, you know,
Yeah.
there's so many things that goes in and around that. But people
Mm,
here love excellence. They love when you try. You know, Ebony
mm,
Life does that as a production company that genuinely, you know, want the best. Nemja, you know, on Breath of Life, you know, so many other productions that I can't remember off the top of my head. Please don't be offended, guys.
that's so good.
You have to put a disclaimer. Um, so yeah, like so many projects and people, creatives that really want you to do your job to the best of your ability. Yeah,
I love that. I
and
love
that's
that.
what keeps me motivated. That's what keeps me here as well. Yeah.
I love that. I love that because yeah, it sounds like that that principle of collaboration
Mm.
across the board is really encouraged and appreciated
Yeah.
because everyone's it's like a body, isn't it? You
Yeah.
need your arm to do the
You know
best
what's
job.
so interesting here? You know how like you go in the diaspora and like people are like you have friends that break into their Nigerian accents. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know what a vibe it is to be doing that in like a film? Like, I don't even like, like I used to sound like that just on a whim, and people are like, what's that? why do you sound like that? Like, I remember I used to get that in uni, but I didn't really think that it was a superpower. But to me, it's a superpower because, like, you know, performing in like a space where I've lived, I've experienced this culture, and yes, I was
Mm,
away, and I was away for a while, and it took me a while to like connect with that back again, because like,
yep.
you know, but it's brilliant. Like, it's brilliant to be in your motherland and
Mm,
to perform in your mother tongue and in your mother ways, but still have the spirit of excellence, still know how to build a character and how to embody the emotions of that character and give it the best. And I just wanted that to be appreciated in the largest scale, like whatever, you know,
yeah.
wherever they're giving the awards. But like, you know, whatever we do, again, it's not necessarily for like I guess Western validation.
Yep.
I
Yep.
want our work to be fruitful for us.
Yes. 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 Which may involve it being appreciated
Urgent.
across the world, but that's not the aim. Yeah. It's not
Yeah.
like we're less than. Got
Yeah,
you.
man. Yeah. For real.
That I love that. So yeah, you're definitely a thespian, an actor's actor. So in terms of like your come up, right, and the impact that you've made,
Mm.
you have like in quite a few projects you've made like notable impact for your performances, right?
Thanks be to God.
Come on, amen. I wanted to know because like I know Nigeria is so competitive. Even like in our conversations, you've given me context into how competitive it is. Even just the hustle culture, the large number of people, as well as the amount of people that specifically also want to act.
Oh yeah.
How have you managed to stand out in such an environment?
Um, I think doing the work, like doing research, like constantly. I think there's just a thirst for knowledge. When I
Mm,
first started out, I wanted to understand what it is to be an actor. I'd read up on what actors are doing, how they're doing it. And then when watching Nollywood at the time, my uni bed, like on my bunk bed, like uni, I used to watch Nollywood and think, oh my God, like, who is this actor? This is so cool. Like, and then I'd go to them to message them and say, oh, I saw this. I saw your work is so brilliant. Like, I'm inspired by it. And then from that, I connect with those people, and
mm,
I would just also like look out for things. Like then I started looking out for things in the industry. Oh yeah, this person is having a one woman play. I want to support this. Yeah, I think I want to watch this. Oh, I can't watch it. I'm in the UK. Okay, I'll pay for like two people to like watch this. You know, and that's a way for me to like, you know, inspire myself, keep myself, you know, in with this within this idea, within this dream. And that's
mm,
what you have to do. You have to find moments, keep yourself interested, keep yourself creative, even though you're not getting the opportunities to be in the rooms that you desire. um
yep.
but counting yourself worthy enough to, you know, treat yourself to the experiences, whether you're just the nobody in
Mm,
the room. You know, you go from being the nobody to somebody, and that's literally how it works. Like, you have to
mm,
count yourself, yeah, trust yourself, and be bold enough to, you know, to speak to people that you admire and things that you like. Yeah, do things that
mm,
you like. That was how I found myself. I was just interested, and kept being interested. Was aware of moments where I wasn't performing my best,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
in that I would try find ways to fix it. When opportunities would come up, I'd be first on it. Oh, there's a monologue challenge, I'm on that. Oh, we're going to this drama school, just there's a new drama school, 3 months, sign me up. It's not like I'm working, you know. So that was kind of facts. Like, you go to a drama school, people are like, oh my God, I have work. Like, oh my God, how am I gonna do this, juggle this drama school and work? I'm like, I can't relate. I'm here, I'm furniture, you know. So it was just that energy, and then having a desire, having a goal, like having a vision for each step that you know, each milestone that you reach. Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. You've got a real go-getter attitude, which I think is important, man. As well as like just matching your craft, it's great to see that it's really helped to propel you.
Thank
So
you. Thank you.
it's great.
Yeah.
It's great. Um, so being making that big leap, right, to
Right.
go back to Nigeria because that's huge.
Mm.
Uh, can you share like some of the barriers that you faced? Just being an actor in Nigeria and trying to make it.
Yeah. There's huge. Well, I was born here, then I moved when I was 11. So from 11 to like maybe till 23, I was in London, and then I had to move here. So I graduated from my law degree. Was like, oh, thank you, Dad. Here's your law degree. I'm here. I'm back. My first week here, like the first day I landed. Let's say I landed yesterday. This today I was in a acting workshop. And I was there for like a week. I met some amazing people, some people that I'd connected with online because I'd seen their work because they came to speak and teach us and all that jazz. And then there are people that I'm friends with until today because of that workshop. So like my idea of being here and moving, you have to have a goal. Like you have to get involved in activities, get involved in events that are happening, speak to people, don't be shy about that. And that's what, and you look crazy. No one's gonna like care about what you have to say. They would maybe turn their nose up at you, but it's only temporary. It's only temporary. Like that's you have to not see that. You have to turn a blind eye on like rejection. You have to like not see people. You have to see yourself. And yes, you're going to go through things where you deal with people that treat you bad, or you don't get the opportunities that you want, or you're struggling to feed yourself, or you're depressed on some days. That's might be your experience. That was my experience. But like I when you have a goal in mind and you're just loving what you're doing, you have to love that process of like trying to find yourself, trying to chase yourself, because that's what it is for me. I was just chasing myself, and even when the opportunities came, I still had to chase myself here, because like, yes, the opportunities come, but how do you have the grace, do you have the knowledge to handle what you've been given? Do you know that this platform is not just for you, it's for everybody else? Do you know that? Like, how do you navigate that? So
Mm,
it's a lot of discipline. I've learned now, because at the time when I was just coming up, I think I was just chilling. Now I know I was chilling. you know I know I was chilling because I'm doing hard work now. But at the time, I just thought, oh yeah, oh my god, this is so hard. But once you get that break, the challenges you have in Nigeria include traveling. It would include making money, making
mm,
real money. Um, um, yeah, in my experience, I wasn't making a lot of money. I was taking public transportation, and I wasn't the kind of person to be like, oh, mom. I did ask. My parents were so helpful, bless them, but like, I couldn't always be like, oh yeah, mom, help me with this, help mom. It was challenging to like learn how to live in Nigeria by yourself.
wow.
There's a culture clash that comes with that. You're a woman, you know. There is also like the gender issues and the lack of equality that exists in this space. So navigating all of that, and I think what I'm grateful for is the like minds that I've gotten to meet, the people that have helped me in my journey, um,
Mm, mm,
and for every milestone, for every place that I've come to. I'm
yeah.
just grateful for the community that has been kind of like my backbone, um,
Mm,
and
mm,
and I'm grateful for giving myself the courage to ask for help where I needed it. I think
yeah.
ask for help, ask questions as much as possible to make your time and your transition a lot easier. Yeah.
Mm, yeah, man. Yeah. You've really, yeah, you've taken on that challenge, and you know, it's by God's grace you've overcome it. And I think just recapping some of those things is like, it's they're not small, because you said trying to live in Nigeria by yourself. I
Yeah.
think that's the thing that kind of struck me, where it's like, yeah, nah, this is not holiday.
Yeah, it's not
It's
holiday.
not, oh, I'm just staying with family for the whole time.
No,
It's like, nah, I gotta figure this thing out as
no,
well.
like literally, I'm grateful. I mean, when I first got here, I had the chance to stay with like extended family,
Mm,
you know, but that's just so you can't stay with extended family for longer than you should. You know what I mean? Like you have a, especially when you're an adult, like you know,
yeah.
you want your own privacy, you want your own kind of like, I guess
Mm,
groove when
yeah.
navigating things. So, yeah, I think do what you can, use the resources around you as much as you can. Like, let that, you know, growing pains, man. Go through those growing pains, and yeah, just be prayerful as well. I don't know if you're a Christian, like, because as I was prayerful and I was also
Mm,
somebody that cared about my health. So I would like physically exercise. I remember like,
yeah.
2018, like August, I came in 2018, August, I would physically exercise, join like
Mm,
the exercising group like across the road. Like it was like this massive field and we'd work out like 5 to 6 a.m. and
mm,
and if
mm.
the if my trainer didn't see me, he would be calling me at 6 a.m. I'm like, bro, like leave me alone. So
I
yeah,
love
those things, do things that help your mental health in the time that you
mm,
are
mm.
chasing whatever it is you're chasing. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, you got some good keys and systems in place that's helping you. So it's great to see. My final question is, now we all know that Nollywood and the film industry in Africa in general is growing rapidly, particularly in terms of like global reach.
Yeah.
What do you see or think are some of the biggest opportunities for actors in Nigeria today?
The biggest opportunities. I think there's a real opportunity to have our stories go global. There's a real opportunity um to to play with the innate experiences that you have if you're an African, someone from an African diaspora, like you have
Yeah.
family, if they've maybe spoken their language to you all their lives, that identity doesn't have to be lost. That identity can make you successful. Um, so and that's truly who you are. Because I find that in London, when I was there, I was only myself at home. And then I'd have
Mm,
to like, have this persona where I'm like speaking a lot of English and perhaps um just not understood, like in my
yeah.
identity, in my skin. I think there's a real opportunity to, if you apply yourself, to just have, be a part of something that would, give you massive returns in the long run.
Mm,
The Africans
mm,
are telling interesting stories here.
mhm.
We're really daring things. I'm I'm happy and I'm excited to see where the industry goes.
Yeah.
Um, I'm 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 excited to see, you know, to just have constant work.
Yeah.
That like I'm constantly training those muscles. Like I'm not waiting for someone to hand me a job. And that was
Yeah.
the reason I moved. Like I just thought to myself, I can't be waiting tables and not, I guess, being creatively inspired or prepping or
Mm,
or just
mm,
applying myself, because I know the big things will come, right? And when
yeah.
they do come, I already am doing the big things. Thank you very much. But when they do, when the bigger things, do come,
Yeah.
um, I feel like I'll be much prepared. Like I'll be,
Mm,
better prepared to serve, to know what God has called me to do, and to live in that truth, like authentically. Like I feel like there are people like Letitia, right? Like, I think that she is walking her path. Like, she's a child of God and she's doing the film that she desires to do, in her own terms. I don't know her personally, but based off of
Yeah.
like just having the blessing and utilizing the blessing in due time,
Yeah.
just really, really inspires me. And yeah, that's kind of where I want structure. I want to know what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and for that to be that. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Well, long may your success continue, sis. A pleasure catching up with you as always. And
Likewise, Pierre. Likewise. Your
come
family now.
on. That's it. That's it. That's it. Yeah, no, thank you so much, Genoveva. Yes, that is it for this session, but stay tuned and we've got our next session coming up next. Welcome to another informative session at our Stories Festival today. Hope you guys have been enjoying it. In this session, we will be covering some really impactful ways that new actors and writers can begin making inroads into theatre, because we all know how important that is. And we are joined by royalty, CEO and artistic director of Theatre Peckham, Suzanne McLean MBE, and critically acclaimed actor and writer David Alade. What's going on, people?
Hey, good to see you.
Thank you,
Thank you very
thank
much.
you.
Yeah.
What an intro.
Well, do you know what? And I say this all the time. I've only really spoken the truth. I guess sometimes, when we're really dedicated to our craft, we're just doing and doing and doing, which is quite a humble thing. And then we don't realize the things that are happening in the backgrounds, all the credits that we're building up, all the achievements that we're doing. So all we've done is really told the truth. Yes. So thank you for your time today. I wanted to dive straight in, right? And Suzanne, I'll start with you, just in general. Like, you are doing fantastic work at Theatre Peckham. Like, you really are, right? I wanted to really uncover and understand some of the just general opportunities and initiatives that Theatre Peckham has for actors and writers.
Okay. So we have a lot going on, a lot of opportunities to participate and also to, come and see work. In terms of participation, we have an academy at Theatre Peckham that is from ages of 3 up until 16.
Wow.
And that's like every evening after school and on weekends. We have young people in our building, and there's lots of different things that they can get involved in. So there is like standardized like dance, acting, singing, but we also have like acting for screen. We also have Backstage Academy. We have acro. So there's lots of musical theatre. I mean, I could go on. There's lots of different classes for young people, and they're all kind of like sectioned into different age groups. Then we have our Young Peckham programme, which is for anyone who's 17 to 29.
Oh, wow.
Those are very specific programmes that are for people who really want to get a little bit more in tune with what they want to do in the arts. So we have examples of that is like our Originate programme, which it's a collaboration between Young and Talented, Guildhall, RADA and Theatre Peckham. That one is like about for all of those people who are like, I don't know, I think I might want to go to drama school, but I'm not sure. Or I've kind of I've got a few acting credits, but I'm not sure, does that class me as an actor? So people who are kind of finding their way, because sometimes people are like, I don't want to go to drama school, but I do want to have the experience of tightening up my craft and knowing what it is that I'm doing.
Yeah.
Or people might be like, I'm thinking about drama school, but I've heard so many negative things about drama school that I want to see whether or not it's as bad as everyone says, or is it the thing for me? So you go because you do sessions in RADA and at Guildhall with RADA and Guildhall tutors. So it really gives you that understanding of this is what it's like in this building. That's the energy and vibe. And a lot of the time as well, when they do have their sessions, I'm always asking them, how was it? And generally we're going, what was the vibe? What did you feel like you could be at home going there in that building? Forget what you were taught. Because at the end of the day, a lot of these directors and facilitators, practitioners, they travel from drama school to drama school. So it's not about the individual, it's more about the whole kind of ethos and vibe and culture of the institution. But then we have our like rep company, which David did. The rep company has changed slightly from the time when David did it.
Yeah.
Now we have each month there's a different practitioner who comes in to share their practice with the group. So again, it's like almost like a miniature drama school in the sense that like you're getting these different practitioners teaching you different skills and then at the end there's a showcase that people do, and then also there's a theatre production that we do at the end of that as well. But then also in our Young Peckham, we've got like a young producers program, we've got an Illuminate program. Illuminate is about everything that is like not on stage, so all the backstage. We can learn lighting, sound, stage
Really?
management. So there's lots.
Keep going. No, keep
I
going.
know.
No,
I'm
no,
like, oh,
please.
talk forever. Aside from that, we have two festivals that we do. So we have our Peckham Fringe Festival, which
Yeah.
is what Sunny Side Up was in when David first brought that to Theatre Peckham. And we have our Young Gifted and Black season, which is like a festival of plays that celebrates Black British brilliance on stage at Theatre Peckham.
Yeah.
And we have our festive show, which we do each year. And for that, we have professional actors who act alongside a select group of academy members. And yeah, they do a run, like a 3-4 week run of the show during December, which is super. And like, you know, in all of these different kind of opportunities that are there is also opportunities that come through it in terms of castings, opportunities for casting directors to come in, see the young people and talent. Like we had a really special thing that happened at the weekend when I was rehearsing with this current cast for our festive show, Pan,
Yeah.
where one of the actors who were in it last year, he's in Oliver that's going into the West End. So he did a nice surprise visit and was like, hey, and it was like, we're like, oh my God, Liam was so excited. So it's about that, like at any age. I've always said as a motto, talent doesn't know age. So it doesn't actually matter what age you are, you can enter this industry and have a wonderful and fantastic career. So yeah, that's kind of like a real whirlwind tour of everything that we do at Theatre Peckham.
I love it. That was a great whirlwind as well, actually. Yeah, very informative and very concise. Thank you. You see Peckham Fringe, right? I think I came across that in the past year or two, and I was like, what is this? It was just like I saw it and I was like, we need that. Can you break down what Peckham Fringe is and how does it work?
Okay, so we put a call out for artists, creatives or companies who just want to have an opportunity to put their production, show, event on our stage. What we do is we have a group of what we call our Theatre Peckham ambassadors, who are a group of local residents who are either involved in the arts or are strongly interested in theatre. They go through and they make the selection process for what actually gets put up onto the stage.
Nice.
The kind of ethos behind that was about, I think there's always a lot of talk about, how to get communities involved in the arts venues that are within their community. And I kind of went, well, the best way to do that is to just give them the opportunity to decide what should be on the stage.
Yeah.
That's what they do. And again, I feel like, yes, I can make the decisions on what I personally want to see on stage, but I feel like as a holder of the keys of the building, if I'm genuine about wanting the community to have their say, then the best thing to do is to give them the keys and just say, right, well, it's you tell me. And also, like, I can have sensitivities to all different experiences of life, but I don't have every single life experience. I don't have lived experience of everything. So, you know, my team of ambassadors, they're coming with all of that. There's a very diverse and interesting group with people from all different walks of life, with all different experiences, with different ethnic and economic backgrounds that can then be like, yeah, but I actually think, you know, I've heard, you know, within the estate that I live in, this is the kind of thing that we want. And somebody else is going, yeah, well, down my street, these are the types of
Yeah.
things that, you know, we're talking about, or in my hairdressers or in my barbers, they would say, do you know what I mean? It's like, I can't be everywhere and I can't speak for everyone, but I've got this group who can now bring in all of that fantastic, interesting juice, and then we put that into the mix, and then they make the selection, and people put their shows on. And I think also, like, we desperately need spaces where an artist can come along and they're like, do you know what? I've got something, even in the way David was, right?
Yeah.
Suzanne, I've got this thing. I've been working on it. I think it's good. I want to
Literally.
put it in front of an audience and I want to see whether or not it's good.
Mm.
And it might not be finished right now, but whatever I can get from the audience is going to be the thing that's going to allow me to know this has got the legs and this is the way and the direction that I want to be in. And like, we've done Sunny Side Up 3 times now, and each time it has developed. And it's our audience who have come in, who have told us the places that they want to develop. And most of it has been about like adding more. It hasn't been about taking
Yeah.
anything off. It's just been going, hang on a minute, you've missed a bit out for me. I need this next thing. And I guess because Sunny Side Up is such a personal and emotional story, but it's one that is like so universal that so many people can relate to. People felt like David's story was their story, which was why they were like, no, you need to, you need to add this stuff in.
Wow. Wow. Okay. This is because what I'm hearing is like genuine opportunity, and David being like a solid, thorough example of that. David, I really want to know. I know we've spoken about this, but I'm going to pretend we haven't, so everyone can find out, right? What made you want to engage with Peckham Theatre in the first place?
It's funny because my like interest for the theatre was before I had even seen what it looked like or knew where it was or anything like that. I just, from when there was a theatre in Peckham,
Yeah.
and I have this story that's set in Peckham, and I still live in Peckham, and I feel like Peckham's in my veins, and it's in the veins of this story. This is where the play has to start. Like, I went on the radio, I had a radio show. I even told Suzanne about this. I had a radio show with Jacqueline Shepherd. And she was, and like during COVID, and she was like, oh, when the lockdown's done, like, what are you hoping to do? I'm like, oh, I've got this play called Sunny Side Up, and it's going to be at Theatre Peckham. This is before I even spoken to them at Theatre Peckham, because I just knew that this is where the play has to start. Now, where TP was so amazing is they kind of put me on stabilizers. So I was on this, trying to ride this bike straight to this, I don't know, 1,000-seater theatre and put on this play. But they really were like, just slow down. And when I look back at the whole journey of it, without them, it doesn't grow naturally. It doesn't become a show that can be in front of people if I was just running at the pace that I wanted it to go at.
Yeah.
So having people like Suzanne involved and the theatre involved, and everyone who's helped out, whether it be lighting, tech, design, that the whole team, and then obviously especially Suzanne, we've managed to like turn this like skeletal thing into a whole production. Because when I think back to like the draft that was written for Fringe, even the draft we were rehearsing for before we put it on stage for Fringe, it's nothing compared to where it is now.
Wow.
So just having that assistance, and even prior to that, getting the feedback from Suzanne via email and in terms of my drafts, like, oh, you need to revisit your themes early, you need to look at this, you need to look at that. And as much as that's discouraging for most writers, it helped in the whole like long term. They didn't just take in this play because I'm from Peckham and then throw it on stage and then I crash and burn and then they've left me. And also they didn't look at it and go, it's not good enough, and then leave me. I was getting feedback by email before anyone's laid eyes on me, before I've even laid eyes on the building. And then when I've come in and then the Fringe Festival had started, I got the support from Suzanne as a director. And yeah, the rest is history. Like, the proof's in the pudding.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add to that as well, what David is saying, because just to add a caveat to that is that, but Sunny Side Up was doing something different. And I think that's also why it was like, yeah, we need to go on this bit of a journey with it. And I think that's, again, like, so many people talk about, oh, but you know, what makes a theatre play? And does it have to follow a particular form and structure and stuff like that? And what David had written was something very unique in
Yeah.
how he'd even written the piece. And
Mm.
so, you know, for us to kind of like be able to lean into that and kind of go, because I think, you know, if I'm you know, correct me if I'm wrong, David, but David had sent his stuff to some other people and people are like, they just don't quite get it because it doesn't really fit into a traditional theatre play form.
True.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was Theatre Peckham was the only place that, obviously I'm not gonna name theatres, but I sent the play to like people I had worked with in the past,
Yeah.
different theatres. Just, I knew it was Theatre Peckham. I wanted it to start, but still, you don't just
Yeah.
put your eggs in one box. So I sent it to everybody.
Yeah.
Some people told me they would read it. Some people said they read it and loved it, and I know they didn't read it. So there was no, like, literally people was like, oh, yeah, I loved it, but then there was no kind of follow up on how we're gonna get this on stage. You know what I mean? So the only place I was getting genuine response and genuine, and I could tell the people were reading it,
Mm.
was where I wanted to do it anyway, Theatre Peckham.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
can only thank God for that. Yeah.
That's yeah, that's really wise. I get it in terms of really we want it to start here, but let's see if there's any other interest. So you know, because you said so much, right? And I wanna peel back a little bit. So it sounds like David, you were this ball of energy and ambition in terms of I've got this idea and we're ready. I've been working on it by myself. I've done a play before. Like I kind of know some stuff. Here's a draft of my script or here's a script. What do you think? What was that process like from first sending it to the commission?
I remember the first. So I got in touch with Suzanne via Valentine because I done Fisherman with Valentine.
Yeah,
And I remember like my first email. I was writing stuff like a story set in Peckham, and I'm writing Peckham with capital letters and exclamation marks, and I was really trying to sell this thing, yeah, because I just thought, yeah, this is the finished thing.
yeah,
And then when I had got feedback, from, because I had sent it to Suzanne and it was forwarded to whoever her producer was at the time, because I think she had read it and said, "I'll look at this and say this," because she's obviously doing 1,001 things.
mm,
The feedback was like, "Oh yeah, revisit some themes and blah blah blah," and that to me, I said it a little bit earlier, but was discouraging because you just feel like whatever you write is the perfect thing. So I
yeah,
was like, oh. And I've left it for months, and then I don't know if I sent another draft, but then I remember just later down the line of a different producer working under Suzanne, and they were reaching out. But I later found out Suzanne was going through her emails, and
yeah.
then saw the past and was like, "Oh, what happened to this kid and this play?" And chase this. So I got chased like, "Oh, is this still something you want to do? Because we're waiting for the draft." It was like, "Oh yeah, yeah, it is." So I remember running back and then drafting up some more, and then, because I kind of, I hate, Suzanne knows about me, I hate like conversations, and I like confirmation. I don't like the back and forth, because to me, sometimes I'm like, these aren't going anywhere, and I'd rather just, and a lot of the industry is full of conversations that don't go anywhere, right? So, and I'm aware of that. So on my end, I was like, okay, how do I get myself into this building to make sure I'm not looked over? So I saw that they were doing the rep company. We were fresh out of COVID and I hadn't done any training for a while. I was like, I'm going to join the rep so that on one end, they see my face, they can't escape me. And on the other end, I'm sending emails, they can't escape me. So I've joined the rep company at Theatre Peckham, and my play is round the back as well, trying to
Yeah,
do its thing. So now that I'm in the building, I can just say to people, oh, did you see my email? Like, that was kind of my whole plan. Oh, did you see my email? Did you see my email? And
Wow.
also I'm training, which is good. So I'm now getting something from the theatre as well, and giving back to the theatre, and everything's working. And then this was the first ever Fringe at Theatre Peckham. So they were like, oh yeah, submit for the first ever Fringe and blah, blah, blah. And to me, the first ever Fringe was amazing. And I feel like the Fringe Festival at Theatre Peckham's just gone from strength to strength as well. Because like that first Fringe Festival, I was like, yeah, I want to do it in the main house. I want to do like 4 nights. I was like, yeah, let's do the show. Let's do the show. And Suzanne was really like, slow down. Like, remember, it's a one-man show. It's an intimate piece. There's emotions in there. She had a like the way I rehearse, I don't really load emotion in the rehearsal space. She had her like worries and fears about, okay, cool, he hasn't shown super emotion in rehearsal space. I don't want him to go on stage and crash. It was very protected. When I look back, I love that about the process. Like, it was very protected. My health was a priority. That's the reality of it, right? So we've done it in this smaller room, 40-seater, 50-seater, but went up to 60 because it was just selling out.
Yeah.
And then we done those 4 nights in that small room, and like, as much as we could have just done that and left it, Suzanne saw the future of it. Theatre saw the future. It was like, no, we can do a run in the main house. Like, we had she brought really cool people to come and watch. I remember Trix, who wrote Desmond, he came to watch, and like, so then we knew it wasn't done. People who came to watch was like raving about it, and then Suzanne was like, cool, we're gonna go for a full run the following year, and that's when like contracts get sent and blah blah blah, and then like, yeah, we're really doing this. And then that's not to say that it was plain sailing, because then the following year brought its own challenges and its own difficulties, and then we still got over it, and we got over it with nominations in Black British Theatre Awards and nominations for the Offies, and we still got over it. And then we knew we wasn't done then, and then we went on to do it at Soho via conversations with Suzanne. Knew someone in the building, I knew someone who was leaving the building, and then we managed to get ourselves a Soho. And with that, still, it's not plain sailing. It comes with its challenges. So there's been growth. That's just the reality. With all the challenges, with all the kind of stumbling blocks in the way, there's been growth, and it's still not done. That's the reality. It's still not done.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go on with strength, and then go to another place as well. But yeah, we just have to wait and see what God has in store.
And like, do you know? Oh yeah, no, go for it, Suzanne.
Say, you know, and the thing that I find really interesting is like as an actor in the past, and I've done a lot of new writing. It's kind of a lot of the time you do a piece of new writing and it is one and done. And the fact that although it's like, obviously, you know, when David first came, it was like, oh, I want to do this thing, and we're going to go, you know, to the highest point straight away. I don't know if we wanted to do one and done. Do you know what I mean? And I can say that reflecting back, but the fact of like, it's just been so much more beautiful to go on this kind of journey than to have gone, oh, do you remember in what year would it have been? I can't imagine.
2022 or 2021, one of those.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Oh, David, do you remember in 2021 we did that play Sunny Side Up? Like, imagine saying that now.
Imagine it was that, yeah. And that would, yeah. Honestly.
Oh yeah, I remember that one. Do you know, it's so much nicer that it's something that is like, and then I think about like when plays become classics. Plays become classics because they're done on several times. And that's why a lot of work of, you know, Black people's work don't become classics, because everyone's just doing it once and it's done, and then they're looking for the next new writer or asking that writer to write something new,
something else. Yeah.
But like, why aren't we redoing the thing that we all thought was amazing? Why don't we rinse that? So we make that one, the play, and the person who wrote it, make them both absolute classics. Make it part of the canon. Make it something that people are like, yeah, this actually means something. Is a piece of quality that actually, you know, deserves to be back. Why don't we do that? David can easily write something new. But
Suzanne's right.
Do you know what I mean? Let's really lean into this.
I remember mentioning something, I can't remember, something to do with like, The Lion King is on every single day at like sometimes 2 or 3 times a day for years. It's been so it's like, if that can be on for years, And that was a story once. It was just a story once about some lions and some, I
Yeah.
mean, so why can't this real story keep going and keep going until the wheels fall off? So that's just kind of the ethos that I've adopted or learnt to adopt anyway. Because yeah, part of this journey is the one and done has always been me. I've always been the one that's been like, Suzanne, I'm done now. Or Suzanne, this is the last time we're doing it. Blah, blah, blah. She's always been the one that like just wait and see, and it's always come back like, okay, yeah, I'm not done. Yeah.
Do you know what? That's amazing, right? I really haven't realized that. And Suzanne, I want to know like your thoughts on why do you think it's a one and done situation for a lot of like talent from our community? Is it them? Is it not really getting the opportunity again, or
It's a mixture. I
a
think
mix?
one is that we all have the ambition, right? So we're like, oh, I've done this thing and it was really good. Now I need to prove that I can do something else, and I want people to, and so that's a personal driven thing,
Yeah.
which is true to have, which is
Mm-hmm.
great. But again, so then we become our own enemy in that way, because we're kind of like going, but hang on a second, did you get this as far as you possibly could get it? And we have to ask ourselves that question, right? The other thing is that we love what the wider art sector likes to tell us. So when they say you're the first Black writer who's done blah, we seem to love that, and we're like, yeah, I am. So therefore, then let me be the new kid on the block each time, because we're I again, this is political, but I really do believe that the arts sector does that. It sets us up, rather than us kind of really validating the legacy of what we have as Black people.
Yeah.
It forces us to kind of go, no, let's always look for the new kid on the block.
Yep.
And if you are the new kid on the block, you're happy to take the title, right? Because that
Yes.
helps with the first trajectory of
Yeah.
going, yeah, I'm doing my thing, I'm going all the way, I'm blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, what's happening to all of the legacy of people who've come before you, who actually maybe they should have got that they've got a legacy, brilliant wealth of work behind them that they're not getting a look in,
Yep.
because the system is saying, no, we need to find
A
the
new Black
new,
person, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm trying to not mention names, but it's those kind of things that happen. So and I think, like, when I think of I don't know, art, for example, like in terms of visual art, and I think of a painter's work, like how does a Picasso become a Picasso? Do you know why? Because Picasso did the one painting and everyone copied the painting, did prints, and then everyone has the print in their house,
Of that
right?
painting.
But we're not doing that with our own stuff. Like, what? So to bring that back again to Sunny Side Up. Yeah, we've done it, but now we need to kind of like replicate that same thing, and then David Alade's Sunny Side Up can become something,
Yeah.
right? But if it's just like, we did it in Fringe, that's done, and I come to David and I go, right, David, I'm going to give you the main house stage for a 3-week run. What's your new play?
Madness. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm like, no, let's take it on. And we do see, we see, even like when I was talking about the Oliver that's happening right now,
Yeah.
right? First of all, we all know Oliver, it's been going on for years.
Yes.
Secondly, it didn't just come into the West End. It was
Okay.
outside of London first, did its run, and then it's coming into do you know what I mean? So there are mechanisms to make things great, but
Yes.
sometimes we are sadly missing those kind of signs. We're not learning from those things.
Yeah.
I don't know that the Fringe version of Sunny Side Up would have been the one to take to Soho. The fact that we've had 2 years of working in it, developing it, and also because the Fringe version was very much, we lent into, obviously we were here at Peckham and we were like, right, we know who our target audience is.
Yeah.
Going into Soho, we're now opening it up. Yes, there was some of our target audience, but there was other people who just like, I like
It
going
was
to the
open,
I'm
yeah.
just going to Densio, right?
Because
Yeah.
that's what Soho does, yeah.
I remember even when we did it at, here in the main house, which again, like 200-seat theatre.
Wow.
There was a woman that was hanging around afterwards because she was quite emotional, middle-aged or even later. She's a retired woman from West London and European woman. And I was chatting to her afterwards because I could see that she's a little bit, and I said, oh, what made you, are you connected to here? Do you know? No. I just heard it on the radio and I came. And then we started talking about the experiences she had of loss. And she said about how much this piece spoke to her. And I'm going, we're taking David doing a thing that is very Peckham, focused, but has a universal story to touch this woman who's come in from West London all the way to see it. And that's what we needed to do to kind of like go to Soho. We really lent into the fact of going, yes, we've got this thing that is really
About South London.
about South London, but actually we're opening up the world to South London now.
Yes.
And also the universality of the story that was within that so that we learned that anyone, no matter what your cultural background is, no matter what your age is, you could actually really benefit or empathize or resonate with David's story because the artistic storytelling was so strong.
That's very profound. Do you know what, David, right? So Suzanne has kind of touched on this a tiny bit, right? She's touched on it a little bit. But what was the process like for you in terms of going to Soho Theatre? You've done Fringe, you've now gone to the main house at Theatre Peckham, and then now you've got a West End opportunity. Like, what was... Yeah, does the play just go, cool, it's the same thing, we just do it there, and it's going to work, or...
No, because like little things changed, but that changed it on a greater scope. So
Yeah.
simply things like size of the stage and audience, right?
Okay.
It's already an emotional play, but now we're in a more intimate space. And so it's like, how do we lean into that to use it as a strength rather than a weakness?
Yeah.
So
So
people
Soho
who...
was more intimate in
Yeah,
terms
where we
of
was, because we
structure.
were Soho upstairs, so it's a
Okay.
smaller space.
Yeah.
And people who had been along the journey, who had come to Fringe, Main House, and Soho,
Yeah.
who had maybe like never shed a tear at the other ones,
Yeah.
like couldn't escape the emotion in this one because they felt like you get this thing when you act all the time. Oh my days, you was looking at me on stage, and it's like I wasn't because I actually can't see you, right? But
Yeah.
that was so much more this time. People felt like they could touch me. Even if they couldn't, like even if they couldn't reach me, they felt like they could touch me, and I mean that physically and emotionally, because this was just a way more intimate version. The emotions were heightened. I wrote some more on the end. I wrote an extra scene on the end, which kind of created this full circle moment in the story, which helped with the narrative of the play. So going Soho was, to me, it was just exciting. Nothing about it. The challenges were there, but
Yeah.
they weren't like daunting or nothing. I think I was just excited about going Soho. I think it was just, I never felt fearful of it. I was always intrigued to see how a new audience would receive it. I know Soho pull in like different shapes and sizes of people. So I was just, yeah, I would say I was open to the challenge of it. Yeah.
Amazing. So what were some of those challenges?
Getting bums on seats, like that's the reality. The biggest
Wow.
challenge in theatre
Okay.
is selling tickets. We knew our strategies, we knew what we needed to do and whatnot, and tickets were selling and all of that. Yeah, but then also you want the right people in the building as well. Like when you're thinking about a play and a play that's growing,
Yeah.
you wish someone sat there can help it go to the next level. You wish like someone sat there can help your career, help the
I
theatre,
got you.
help this and help that. Like,
Yes.
and all of that aside, you wish the people who hear this story can see a bit of themselves in it, right? Because at the end
Mm.
of the day, sunny side up, no matter who you are, young black boy, young white boy, old white man,
Yeah.
woman, like there's a part of that story, yeah,
Mm.
that's always gonna grab you.
Mm.
Whether it's growing up in underprivileged circumstances, having a relationship with a parent, a severed
Yeah.
relationship with a parent, becoming a carer for a parent, an ill
Yeah.
family member, a ill like then loss. Like there's something along this whole story that always clings onto someone. So my wish every night is that whatever part of this play that I can latch them, that I latch them and I just don't let go. Like and they just are with me for the whole story. Because I'm sure there's parts of the play that people just find comical but can't relate to at all.
Yeah. I
And
got
then there's
you.
parts of the play that people are literally, I see people put their head down. They don't want to look at me anymore.
Mm.
So, like, that's what I kind of loved every night as well. But was also a challenge I was open to, yeah.
Amazing. Suzanne, David has mentioned how like protected he felt along this whole process. But I wanted to ask, right, in going to Soho, because obviously you're the artistic director of Theatre Peckham, so it's like this is your house. So, you know, you hold the keys and you're directing on it. So what you say goes. When we go to Soho Theatre now, how what is that process like in terms of just managing that situation, still, you know, looking after David, but still bringing this play to life and making it relatable for everyone.
Well, we rehearsed on our own ground,
Okay.
which was cool.
Hmm.
I think a lot of it was a lot of learning is learning that different buildings work differently, have
Okay.
different, and finding out who's who and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So in terms of, David touched on the marketing and stuff like that. We had to build a relationship with their marketing and PR teams,
True.
and making sure like David and I. Well, I was always like, if we were having a marketing meeting, I was
Hmm.
like, no, I want David there because again, I feel like it's such an important and personal story that I want to make sure that David's voice is centered in any decisions that were being made.
Wow.
And also, I wanted us, I think there was some, I'm right, can I remember this? I'm sure there was some conversations about like, we're not going with Peckham Boy comes West End.
Yeah, that's dead. That's
Do you know
dead.
what I mean?
Because,
There was all of those. Do you know what I
yeah.
mean? Just to make sure, like we're not. That's not. And also, is it Gangland Peckham coming in the? Do you know what I
Oh,
mean? We were like,
yeah.
and I was like, I just want to make sure because these things can happen when you're kind of like, you allow somebody else to just kind of like, PR your show or market your show if you're not a part of the whole discussions. And also, you know, a lot of the time when we'd have those meetings, they'd be saying like, "Oh, I'm so glad David was there because
Mm.
Mm.
they get the show because they were speaking. They had a moment to speak to David, as opposed to like, oh, just let's just take the themes from the show and just run with
Yeah.
it."
Mm.
I think we even there was a couple of times even on the posters, wasn't it? We went back and forth in terms of what quotes we want
The
on the
quotes we were using, yeah, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? We were
Yeah.
very like, okay. And again, it was that same thing. Like, how can we be true to the story that we need? And maybe if it was like, I don't know, something else, it might have been a more popular way to sell it
Yeah.
for kind of more of an exploitation way. And we were
Yep.
like, no, I'm not doing it in that way. We're going to
Mm.
maintain our integrity of the show,
Mm.
and the people who will get it will be the people who will get it, and they will come and they will buy tickets. But we weren't going to fall into any of those kind of traps of, selling a show in a way that we didn't feel that it suited our our values for the production that we wanted to do.
That is absolutely huge, because that theme of, Peckham Boy goes West End, that is gonna help get bums on seats. But then it does what we've been talking about earlier in terms of like New Kid on the Block. Like, it's almost saying you're not supposed to be here. Wow. So then for everyone else that comes, it's like it actually empowers the one in, one out scenario, because there's this big flash in the pan, but then what you guys decided to do was like, no, I'm an artist. This is a great play, and it will work.
And yeah, exactly. And I add to that we went with the sense of the West End is going to be privileged to have this production, as opposed to they're getting a little taster of what it's like back at Yard.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? And yeah, those are
It
just,
wasn't that,
yeah.
Man,
And I think and it was so interesting getting some responses from staff members at Soho. They were just like, "Oh my
Yeah.
God, this is incredible."
Yeah, they loved it.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. And these are people who are seeing shows all the time.
Yeah, hundreds.
You know?
Yeah, I mean,
And so again, I was like, "Oh, I'm really glad." I mean, we were always going to, but I was like, "I'm really glad we just maintained our own
yeah,
for the production."
that's so profound. Like, because like you see that guidance and insight, I can just see so many people, because everyone's hungry and we know it's difficult to get in. So it's like, all right, what, that's the carrot? Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll take it. And but not realizing the other effects that it can have later on down the line for everyone. So yeah, no, I commend you guys both on standing your ground. My last question, right? And this is for both of you. I'll start with you, David. What advice would you give to like emerging actors and writers who, they say they want to get their feet into theatre more?
I say this to everyone because it kind of applies to almost every walk of life. Just take the risk. Because if I don't think and believe in what you're doing, you know what I mean? Believe in yourself. Like, you have to have don't be too prideful, but you have to have a sense of pride about your own product, right?
Yeah.
So when I wrote Sunny Side Up, I thought it was the bee's knees. So I was like, I'm sending this email out. And like, you just have to, because if I don't send that email out, Suzanne doesn't come looking for me. That doesn't exist. You know what I mean? The theatre doesn't just open their door and go, we perceive you have a play to do. Like, that is fairyland. Like, you actually have to bang on doors. One of my older brothers in the acting world always, because I used to get nervous about things like, oh, should I send this email? Should I do that? And he always says you have to see these people as the gateholders or key holders to what you perceive as your destiny, right? Or you got to knock on the door once. You like bang that door down. So that's just how I operate in everything that I feel like is supposed to be in my journey. That's how I operate. I bang the door down. I will send 1,000 emails and apologize every time, but I will badger until I feel like what I've got from that scenario is all I can get from there. So
Yeah.
concerning Sunny Side Up, concerning getting my play to the stage, I've done everything I could. Because people have life to live. People are busy as well. So you can't always assume that, okay, yeah, I've sent this email, I'm going to get this flash response. You might not get a response for like 2 weeks, but nothing stops you from sending a chaser. Nothing stops you from joining their rep company to worm another way. And do you know what I mean? Like, check out your local theatre, see what opportunities they have. Theatre Peckham have a plethora of opportunities. I'm sure they're not just like reserved to people who live in Peckham. So get involved in Theatre Peckham if you can. But because their Originate program is something I was super jealous of when I was saying, like, having a chance to go to Radar and then train there for a bit. And like, it's crazy because I was like, that's way better than the rep company, but we won't talk about that. But you know what I mean? So like, yeah, I would say just get involved. Get involved where you can. When you obsess yourself with something and consistently like surround yourself with something, that's the only thing that can come out of you. So that's just kind of how I would tell people to approach it. Yeah.
I love that. And Suzanne, what advice or practical steps would you give for emerging artists, like actors and writers?
Try and find out what it is that you stand for. I think that's the easiest way to be driven, kind of like to do what David's saying. I'm saying that you need to do the step before that is to kind of like, yeah, but what is your driver? What do you stand for? What is your thing? And it's hard because we do all want to just work, and we've got bills to pay, and we want to live our life, right?
Mm,
But the closer you get to what your ultimate essence is, the easier all of that actually is, because people know you for what you want to be known for. You're not
yeah.
fitting into somebody else's box. You're owning, this is me, this is what I offer, this is what I bring, this is what I'm passionate about, this is what I
Mm,
want to do, this is the direction I'm going in. And if you're the holder of the keys to that door, you're going to be hearing from me,
yeah.
because I know that this is the door I'm banging on, and I'm not distracted by the other 10 doors that are here, because it's your one that I want.
I love that. Bang on those doors. Bang on Suzanne's door if you want. Okay, no, thank you guys. That was really helpful.
Thank you.
I hope you guys have all taken notes. Yes, God bless you. And yeah, stay tuned for another session. Welcome to our Stories Festival. This is our final session and we are going out with a bang. This session is really about understanding how to become a working writer, because a lot of people from our community, I believe there's a bit of a mental barrier when it comes to going full time as a writer, and believing that, maybe that can only really happen when you get your own show commissioned, and that is just not the case. So, yeah, we're really going to dive into that and understand how, you can hopefully become a working writer too. Our guest today has worked her way up. She's shot her own projects, been nominated for an NAACP award, as well as being co-founder of Black Women in Scripted. I introduce to you Thara Popoola.
Hello.
What's going on, Thara? How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. How you doing?
I am very good
Thanks
and
for having me.
excited to have you. It's all good. It's all good. So Thara, I'll dive straight in, right? You have you have really gone through the, like, I've seen you go through the the stages of, like, look, I've got a script idea. I just want to make something. I've made something. I'm doing this. I've stepped up here. I got on this scheme. This, it led to this. Like, really walking those steps towards being in the industry as a professional, i.e., this is what you do full time. How did that transition happen?
Um, so like how do you mean, like how was the transition, or once I had transitioned, how was it then?
No, 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 no. So how was the transition from nine to
Okay.
five to, yeah, yeah. What was the transition?
Yeah. So I think I think I've been full time 2 years ago. So I got my first TV job in 2020, 2021.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was still working full time as a paralegal. And yeah, I basically used all my annual leave to do the room. It was 5 weeks, and also unpaid leave because I didn't have enough annual leave. Uh, and at the end of the room, so I got an episode, but because I was writing the last episode, so it meant there was quite a large gap between finishing the room and writing my episode. So I stayed in my 9 to 5 full time. I wasn't leaving my job yet, but then I started to get other jobs, and things started to get a bit busier. So I went part time. So I was
Mhm.
working my 9 to 5 3 days a week, and then writing 2 days a week. When I would have rooms and stuff, I just used my annual leave, and I had a really good manager at that time, so she was quite like flexible, and she would sort of let me work on, maybe do like my 9 to 5 stuff on weekends and do rooms and stuff. So we
Yeah.
managed it. But then it got to a point where it was just like, okay, Thara, you're getting quite busy, and it's the 9 to 5 and full time are clashing, and it's not feasible. And also, you can't fully give your 9 to 5 the time it deserves as well. So, yeah, I had a chat with my manager, and she was on the same page. She was just like, she was very supportive, but she was like, yeah, I think maybe you should, pursue this writing thing properly.
Yes.
But yeah, like at the same time, I had kind of planned it in that financially I had savings. So like, okay, if I have a job now, if I don't get a job for a certain time, I'll be okay. So I always say it's important to assess that as well. And also like my living situation meant that, I didn't have massive expenses. So again, I could afford to take the risk. So I always try to tell people like it's important to assess your situation and not be like, oh, Thara did 9 to 5, quit her 9 to 5 and went full time, so I can do it too. No, everyone's situation is different. So I think it's important to assess your situation, plan, but also realize that there's going to be a risk. So it's really easy to be like, oh, when I get this, then I can leave. Not
Yeah.
necessarily. Like there's always going to be a risk. I didn't have my own show when I'd left. I was working on, I think I was on one show, and then when I left I got another show literally like 2 weeks after.
Wow.
So there's always going to be an element of risk, but if you sort of taken certain steps, being wise. Like I'm not a fan of a struggling artist. Like I'm not going to tell anyone to starve just so you can write. It's not that deep. Like stay in your 9 to 5 for as long as you need to. When you have some savings, then take the leap. But there's going to be a risk, and that's sort of inevitable. But yeah, it's just about planning really, and taking a leap of faith.
I love that. I love the reality of what you're saying. Yeah, because we don't see what's really happening behind the scenes. Pretty much, probably for like anyone online, it's the highlights, isn't it?
Yeah. So everyone's situation is different, and like certain people, if you have financial commitments to family, that means you might not be able to quit your full-time job so easily. So it's important to be like, what is my personal situation, as opposed to like, this person did this so I can do this. No.
Love that. So you mentioned your first writer's room, right? The one that was for 5 weeks. How did that come about?
So that was through my agent. So I signed with my agent at the beginning of 2021.
Yep.
And I think I'd only written one TV script at that point, which was the script that I submitted to get onto For Screenwriting. And when I signed with her, I remember I was very like, I was like, oh, is it too early? Should I wait until I finish the course? But I remember talking to some friends, and they were just like, just sign. Like, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But when I did sign, because I was very new then, and I was just like, I don't want you to put me up for any jobs because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. But she put me up for a job anyway, and that was sex ed. So she sent my script. I didn't know. And then she called me one time. She was just like, yeah, so there's this show. Do you watch? And I was a huge fan of sex ed. So I was like, what? So I think I thought it was like an assistant job. And it wasn't. She was like, yeah, they want to interview you for the room. So I interviewed with them. I think it was just one interview. Yeah, well, I had one interview with like the writing team, and then I had an interview with the exec, and then they were like, yeah, you got the job. So then when I finished For Screenwriting, like the day I handed in my script for that, the day after I went straight into the writer's room, which is like crazy.
What? Okay. All right. Oh, so basically, yeah, you wrote on sex education, which is like that's a huge show. Yeah. And the way you got that was, yes, through your agent. However, in order to get an agent, you had a script that you had already written.
Yeah.
And that was like your
calling card script, yeah, like sample script.
Yeah. So, because I know a lot of writers are in this stage, right? Like they're working on their calling card. What was, and I know for screenwriting is like it's a huge thing, right? It's an honor to be on it, and there's prestige that comes with it. So what were the steps before getting onto For Screenwriting? What was happening there that led you to get to the quality that you could get onto that course?
do you know what? I can't even take any credit. It's literally all glory to God. And I'm not even just saying that because before that, I mean, I'd just been writing shorts and stuff. Like
Yeah.
I'd write shorts and just make them with like whoever.
Mm.
So for that course, I remember one of my really good friends growing up, her older sister is a screenwriter. And I had like a chat with her, and she was just like, she had done full screenwriting a few years prior. So she was like, you need to apply for this course. And she maybe told me that like a few months before it. And then when it opened up, she was like, here's the link, make sure you apply. But at that
Mm.
point, I still hadn't written a TV script. I didn't know how to. Like, all I'd done was shorts.
Oh.
So, but I was like, no, I need to apply because I know she's going to be like, why didn't you apply?
Mm.
So I started on something maybe a few weeks before the deadline, but I just wasn't really feeling the script. I was like, it's a bit rubbish. And then literally like 2 days before, and I do not recommend this, like, this isn't good. Don't do this. Don't be like me. 2 days before, I got an idea, which is based on a short play that I'd written. And yeah, I just banged it out in like a day and a night. I think I pulled a sickie, which is really bad and didn't go into it. And I just like banged it out and then submitted it. So that's what I mean. Like, it wasn't me refining the script. I wasn't redrafting. It was the first draft that I submitted,
Hey.
which I don't recommend. That's why I say it's all God, it's not me. Because that's not a good idea. Like, that's what
Wow.
I tell you not to do. But I was like, I just went for it. So I think
Wow.
the point you can take from that is sometimes you just never know. Like, you never know. Sometimes people are like, oh, but what if it's not very good? You don't know. I didn't think that script was, I mean, I knew there was something there, but I was like, it's very fresh. It's the first draft. So I'm always like, just apply for it. Just apply. Like, you literally never know. I didn't think I'd get onto the course. No way.
Wow.
So yeah, that's my
Wow.
unhelpful
Well,
answer.
no, but you know what? I think the helpfulness in it is that you shot your shot.
Yeah.
Like, if
I
you
just went for it.
definitely don't apply, you're definitely
You're
not
definitely
getting.
not good.
You know,
Exactly.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. So
Amazing. So, what happened on for screenwriting? What did you learn when you look back now? What did you learn that made you a better writer?
I learned how to write quickly. I mean, I was very all right at writing quickly, but the course was, they basically commission you to write a pilot, so it could be half an hour or an hour. I think I wrote an hour script,
Yeah.
and you have like 4 or 5 months to do it, and they give you 2 script editors that help you refine it. So initially, your first, because when you interview for it, so when I get shortlisted, I then had to pitch some ideas. So the ideas I pitched, I didn't actually end up going with any of them. So I sort of
Yeah.
changed my mind. But it's the course is basically you coming up with an idea, writing like a little pitch, then doing outlines, so a few drafts of outlines, and then a few drafts of the script over the space of like 4 or 5 months. And
Yeah.
I was still working full time, 9 to 5, so it's like quite intensive. So it teaches you to write quickly, which when you're doing, writing professionally, you need to be able to write quickly. Sometimes you have quite tight deadlines. So it taught me that. It taught me about the industry, because prior to that, I didn't know anything about TV. I always say I kind of fell into TV. Like, prior to that, all I'd written was plays and films, like short films. So that's sort of where I thought I might go into, but then ended up in TV. So it taught me everything about TV. It's like a crash course, basically. So yeah, I always shout about the course because it really propels my career and taught me a lot. Taught me how to take notes, how to like interpret notes, because sometimes there's like a note, but it's what are they really saying? So it taught me how to do that. Taught me how to not take things so personally. Like, the script editor is once, I mean, I had really good script editors, but they saw the vision and they trying to get me to that point. So it might be a note that I'm like, but ultimately they're seeing like the bigger picture. Got me my agent. Shout out to Philip Shelley, who runs the course. He made the introduction. So a lot. I owe a lot to the course.
Wow. Okay, I love that. I love the writing quickly. I love the inner workings and just understanding that, because I guess when you're writing creatively, by yourself, it's like they're your babies.
Yeah, you're really precious. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love that outworking of like, look, it's not personal. The note beneath the note, like, what are they really saying?
Yeah.
No, amazing. So like, so many people feel like getting their own show is the ultimate goal, and that's when you're doing it, right? How do you balance working on other shows whilst still cooking up your own stuff in the background?
Yeah. It's not easy. Like I think this year especially, um, I've been on two shows this year that are sort of just
Mm,
finishing up now. So it's been quite hard to like focus on my own stuff as well, just because
yeah.
it's sort of been back to back. So when I hand in a script for one, I'm on to another, and then when I'm
Come on.
it's been back to back, which is a huge blessing, but it sort of meant my own stuff has taken a bit of a back seat. So it almost feels like back to when I was working 9 to 5, and my 9 to 5 is working on the other shows, and then on like weekends and stuff is when I'm like sort of finding time for my stuff. But then at the same time, I'm being paid to develop my stuff, so I also have to
Yes.
I have to hand stuff in. But people are quite understanding, and people are aware like product stuff that's in production, like greenlit, it comes first. So
Yeah.
yeah, I most of the all of the production companies I'm working with on stuff are very understanding and just know how the industry works. So if it's just like, sorry, I've got a deadline on, the show, it's fine. So yeah, I think it's all about communicating and just being like, I'm going to be out for a few months because I'm on the show, just letting them know,
Yeah.
and it's fine.
Do you know what? I love that. I love that you said, all the production companies, they just, they
Yeah,
just
because
don't
they also
know.
have shows that are like, when they have shows that are in production, your stuff is going to take a back seat. So it goes both ways, really. But it's about just letting them know and not just disappearing.
I love it. I love it. So, what advice have you got for writers who they feel stuck or they feel like they're unable to get into writers' rooms and get work?
It's hard. I think especially now the industry, like when I sort of broke in, the industry was in a different place where it is now. I think now it's very difficult. Everyone's sort of like, tightening up their purses and closing doors. But I think, and I know it's cliche, but I sort of just think try and make your own stuff. I think
Mm,
ultimately, yes, we do this because we want to be working writers, but first of all, we love to write and we love stories. So I think starting from there, like you remember back in the day with work bay
yeah.
and when we used to make stuff, like
Yeah. Yeah.
that's I didn't know about an industry then. I just knew I liked to write and I like
Yeah.
to make stuff with my friends. That was
Yeah.
literally it. I didn't
It's
know about
true.
the TV industry. All I knew about the legal industry. That's all. Like that was my world. So like I came in very, I guess, naive, but that helped me. So I wasn't really massively obsessed with getting into the industry. I just wanted to I just like people, working with actors and seeing them bring my works to life. And that was it. So I think almost getting back to the heart of why you do what you do and trying to make, and I know again, but even the financial thing, like I didn't put any money into that. Like
Yeah.
you had all the kit, we had piece,
Yeah.
and whatnot. So it was like there's ways around it and just making your own
Mm,
stuff. And I see it a lot, like, on TikTok, I see loads of people just making their own stuff. On, YouTube, there's people being proactive. So I think that's the way. And a lot of the time, eventually the industry will clock on and they'll reach out to you. Like the things that I have, like if I'm being honest, is a lot of doors, again, I believe it's God that's opened those doors, but it hasn't been me knocking down, knocking down doors and being like, oh,
mm,
read your script, or we've seen you're short or whatnot. And
yeah.
that's where opportunity comes from. So I think getting back to the heart of why you want to do this and starting from there and being like, cool, I can't get in, let me just make my own stuff. Or just finding alternative routes. Like some people come in, they work as runners or as script editors. Like I'm mentoring a script editor at the moment, but she's also a writer. And that's like an avenue to get in. Some people work in development. There's loads of different avenues. So it's just sort of being creative and being open, that it might not just be a clear route. It might not be how I've come up. It might not be through
Yeah.
school. But the number one thing is you need to have work. You need to have a script. You need to have, do you know what I mean? So stop focusing so much on the industry and focus on, I need working in
Yeah.
what capacity that is. If that's just writing my own scripts, having a good set of scripts that when the time comes, here's my script,
I love that. That is a great point. Like dealing with what you have now. If you
Yeah,
don't have anything now, make something. Like
yeah,
write this script. Like
mhm,
bang something out, because
yeah.
then you have something to even be able to bang on any door.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah. But
that's it.
also just being kind to yourself, because like I said, I'm speaking from a privileged position in that I'm a working writer. But I'm aware if you're starting off right now, it's not easy. So don't be hard on yourself. It's not easy. Doors are
Yeah.
closing. Even people that are working are having to go back to like, getting side jobs and whatnot. So it's not easy.
Okay, I love that. I love that. Thank you. Very gentle, very gentle. What would you say is the biggest misconception about being a working writer?
Mm, I think people maybe think it's more. I don't know if this is maybe people that are already sort of pursuing this, or maybe because I have most of my friends are lawyers, so I think
Yeah,
they all sort of. I mean, they know now, but when I started, they all thought things were really like my life was really glamorous, and I'm like,
yeah,
I literally sit at the desk like you, like I'm at a desk all day. In like even today, I'm like I don't dress up, like I'm in a hoodie most of the time, or like
yeah,
so it's not particularly glamorous. You'll just sort of say,
yeah.
yeah, if your show's out and there are like, I don't know, screening or whatnot, you get that, but that's not constantly. Especially as a
Mm,
writer, like maybe producers are a bit more, out and about and networking and directors and actors. But as a writer, you're very much behind this, like no one knows who you are. Like, so
yeah,
maybe some, I don't know, but maybe because yeah, I think if you're in it for like the fame, you go be an actor, like be
yeah,
something else. So I think that's maybe a preconception that writers are like super glamorous, and I just don't think.
yeah.
I think that's why a lot of us gravitate. Like most of us are probably quite nerdy and introverted,
Mm,
to some extent. So yeah, maybe that's a preconception.
I love that. Thank you, thank you. So you work on big shows.
Yeah,
You're doing your thing,
yeah,
Thara.
very nice.
Um, Given that you've probably been in like so many different writers' rooms and been on like a variety of projects,
Mhm.
um, do you feel that like diversity and inclusion in writers' rooms has improved?
Um, so it's interesting. So I've not even necessarily intentionally, but one of my friends actually said it recently, which is like, you're in like a lot of like quote unquote black shows. Like, so a lot of
Mm,
the shows that I've done, especially in the past few years, have been like the room has been majority. Like Queenie, it was all black people in the room, except like the
mm,
like, execs and whatnot.
mm,
Um, recently I've done season 2 of Dream Was Black.
mm.
Was all black except again, which is
Yeah,
also an interesting trend that it's like all black except like the execs.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
did Black Ops season 2 again, similar. So yeah, like in that sense,
You're really out here.
I
You
can be like, oh
are.
yeah, it's super diverse, but then I recognize that that's rare and that's maybe a bit of a bubble. Like I've done other
Mhm.
projects where I'm the only black person in the room. Um,
Mm.
so I think I
What
kind
was
of
it
think
like on
the
sex
solution
education?
on sex ed was again very very diverse. I was like, yeah,
Okay.
very diverse because of the nature of the show.
Yeah.
So I've been quite fortunate to work in a lot of diverse rooms, but I'm also aware that's maybe probably a bit of a bubble.
Yeah.
Friends that have done other shows that they've been the only black person, and even a few shows I've done, I've been the only black person. Where you
Mm.
sort of feel like a token, and it's like, okay, we have this one black character, Thara. This is this
Ooh.
is your Like I've been on a show like that, so
And how
I
did
think
that feel?
it just like icky. Like why can't I, because especially with that show, I don't want to say too much, but it was sort of like
Yeah.
every episode is centers on a character. So it just happened to be that, the only black girl in the room gets the when it's
Yeah.
interesting because the I probably related more to in terms of like upbringing
Yep.
and like specifically like because they wanted to talk about class issues. I probably related more to like one of the other characters that like grew up middle class and in the suburbs. Do
Yeah.
you know what I mean? But there was just that assumption of you're a black girl, you can relate to this, you know. Yeah. So
Wow.
it's interesting. But I think
Can I just jump in there?
I don't know.
You,
Yeah.
you know what? All right. So what I find interesting about that is it sounds, and obviously we're not going to name the show
Mhm.
or anything like that, but upon hearing that, what it sounds like to me is that there wasn't that, I don't know if the word is due diligence,
Mm.
but there wasn't like a bit of a deeper understanding on, okay, great, you're a black female, but who are you as well?
Yeah. See, I wouldn't
Because
say that. I think it wasn't. It was just simplified because, you know, when I met with the showrunner for that, we spoke about
yeah,
our upbringing, we spoke about everything. So, you know, it was very clear that. But I think there's just that assumption that if you are that, it's that assumption that as black people are experiencing, it's like a monolith, like we all have the same experience. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? So I think
yeah,
it was more that, and just like, oh, of course you'll be able to, you know.
yeah,
And again, I could, like, I can. It's not I can't.
yeah,
It's just interesting that you automatically assume that, as opposed to the white man who grew up on ends.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I grew up on Milton Keynes. What do you? So
Whoa.
it's interesting, and that happens, you know, quite often. So I think it's just lazy. I think that's what it is. I think it's lazy.
And you know what, right? There's another perspective that just came to mind that was like, you know what? We might have something that we want to say, but let's see first. Let's see what Thara thinks, and then I'll jump. You know where it's like, yeah, it's, you know where something is maybe a bit too polite.
Yeah.
So there's, yeah, that's interesting. Okay, but then as a result, that's how you felt. So I think that's something that's quite interesting. So yeah, okay, thank you. Like, given that you're so good and great at what you do, which is why you're on all these amazing shows, right? Just as a writer, like, what's your process like?
What is my process like? It's not. Do I have a process? I don't know. Like in terms of when I'm on a show or like my own stuff. Because I think
Uh,
that's very different.
yeah. Oh, break that down then. Yeah, what's it like when you're on a show?
I think when I'm on a show, it's maybe a bit more structured in
Yeah.
that, you know, if I'm writing my outline, we sort of beated it out in the room. So I'm, you know, writing that up. And then when I'm writing my episode, it's just sort of the structure's already there. So it's just sort of me having fun.
Oh,
Do you know what I
wow.
mean? Like, yeah, I don't know if I have a process because sometimes I don't know how to say this without sounding really like airy fairy and cringy, but it's sort of
Yeah.
like not out of body experience, but low key. Like when I'm in that flow state, it's just like it's just go go
Yeah.
go. So like I'm not even necessarily conscious of, oh, what's my process right now, and because like I
Yeah.
don't like, that's why even when like I recently got asked to do a not a lecture, but kind of a lecture. And to be fair, I'm quite busy, so I wasn't able to. So I passed it on to a friend. But at the same time, I was like, I don't have any training, so I can't teach anyone how to write. I just do it. Like I don't consciously know what I'm doing.
I hear
You
you.
know what I
I
mean?
hear
So
you.
that's why it's hard to talk about process because, like, it's just right. I don't
Do you
know.
know what?
You know, sometimes I'm even thinking maybe I need to go to school because you say 5 act structure and I'm googling what like I don't know what is that. A lot of it is quite instinctual for me. But yeah.
Wow. No, do you know what? I so okay. This is, I love what you're saying, right? Because when I'm hearing you, I'm like, no, you have had structure. I mean, not structure. You have had training. You went on for screenwriting. It
Yeah.
might not be like a 3-year degree, but
Yeah. But
that's
even that, they're
training.
not teaching you how to write. Like they're teaching you the industry and whatnot, and obviously giving you like steerings in terms of maybe
Oh,
this might work there. But the actual writing thing is just
yeah. You
yeah.
just got it.
Not even that, but I don't know. I think maybe I grew up watching a lot of TV. Like I always joke with my mum that when I was younger, they would always used to call me like square eyes because I would just sit right in front of the TV and just.
Is
So I think
it?
maybe a lot of that is just muscle memory that I've just consumed so much in like TV and film that I just maybe instinctively know what works for a story. Do you know what I mean? But I haven't actively like, and again, like I wrote a lot of poetry growing up, so maybe I've always enjoyed writing, so I think
Yeah.
there's probably like a natural element there. And in terms of learning, I think being on back-to-back shows as well, I think I've just picked things up.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe I just need to take time to realize what is your process. A lot of it has just sort of just been internalized and then regurgitated out as opposed to like
Yeah.
actually knowing what is like the process.
I got you.
Yeah.
Legend, legend, legend. And my final question, Thara, is what advice would you give? What general advice would you give to someone who is where you were 4 years ago when you were making Work Bay and thinking, you know what, I kind of want to pursue this thing.
Yeah. It's not even anything deep. It literally is just like keep writing. Keep writing. Be open to like collaboration. Like don't be stush and precious about your work. Be proactive. Apply for everything. Don't be a perfectionist. I think something that's probably helped me a lot is I'm not. You always say people saying I'm a perfectionist. I'm the opposite. Like as you saw, I would just apply with the first draft. Like I'm very unserious. Sometimes to a fault because sometimes it's like, have you read this? Like, why are there so many typos? But like, don't be a perfectionist. Like, don't talk yourself out of stuff. Like, we all struggle with imposter syndrome. But I heard something recently that was just like, I'm gonna navigate life like a middle-aged white man. And you know how they're just audacious. They'll just do anything. Obviously, apply wisdom and don't be crazy, but just be like audacious. Focus on your focus, like try not, so it's easy said than done, but try not to compare. And also like, I don't know if people agree, but I love what I do, but it's not that deep. Like I'm telling stories, amazing, huge gift, thank you Jesus, but there's more to life. Like make sure you don't pour so much into this that you're like neglecting other areas of your life. Like have hobbies. For me, my faith is very important. Like that I can't make this an idol that I'm now neglecting that aspect. And it's so easy to happen, especially when like you do start to get quote unquote successful, and you'll have people just gassing you up constantly. Like if you're not rooted and have a solid foundation, like you'll crumble. So make sure now that you're unknown, you're really building that foundation, whether you're a person of faith or not, but you're grounding yourself in something that isn't so frivolous, because this industry is up and down. Like like I said, now the industry's down, it will be back up again, and then it'll go down and it'll go back up. And then also really good advice I got when I was starting off was like, use your, now that you have so much freedom to do anything, to make anything. You don't have people screaming at you, like not screaming down your ear, but like this is what the commissioner wants, this is what this exec wants. You don't have to answer to anyone, so you have the freedom now. So enjoy that and cherish that, and be like, be cognizant of everything, as opposed to now being to my stage, you're like, oh, way back when I could literally make whatever I want, and I didn't have anyone telling me to do this and do that. So enjoy the season, because if you keep doing it, like it will happen. I truly do believe that. But yeah, sorry, that was very up everywhere, but
No, that's beautiful. That really is beautiful. Because I saw a Denzel clip the other day where I think he was on a Variety Roundtable session, and he said something that changed the dynamic of the room. Right? He was like, listen, don't get me started with that. Like, oh, this is difficult. This is difficult.
Yeah.
He was like, we're only making films.
It's true. Like sometimes I'm like, what's the deadline? We need to get to. I said, are we saving lives? I mean, again, I get art is amazing. Art is amazing. It can make you feel. It can make you tap into certain parts of you that you didn't even realize. Beautiful thing. But also, it's not that deep. Like there's bigger things to life. There's bigger things to life. Yeah. So I think listen to Denzel. Exactly. Basically, that's the advice. Go watch a Denzel clip. I'm sure you'll find all the life advice you need there. It's true. That man is wise. That man's wise.
I love that. Thank you so much.
But at least we got to the end.
We got to the end.
Jesus.
Thank you so much, Thara. That was an amazing way to round up the festival. Like, yeah, real gems, and practical ones as well. I mean, obviously, you know, getting onto four screenwriting is amazing, but I believe and feel like the principles that you've been applying is like, regardless of four screenwriting or not, I'm making stuff. And I am still reaching out, applying for things and seeing what happens. So, and it's not that deep. So
Basically.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you, and for what you're doing as well.
It's all good. Amazing. Thank you. Bye.